The snow fell heavy around Lydia as she trudged forward through the white wasteland. Her breath made clouds in the freezing air while her arms held tight to the small bundle against her chest. The baby girl, wrapped in layers of enchanted cloth, slept despite the harsh journey. Her tiny pointed ears and faint blue markings the only visible signs of her elven heritage. Lydia looked back at her companion. Following behind her, Ember the copper-scaled dragon moved slowly, his normally bright scales dulled from exhaustion and cold. Though young for a dragon merely 30 years old, he remained loyal, even as they fled from both their kinds. He was the size of a large wolf, his wings tucked close to conserve heat. Small wisps of smoke escaped, his nostrils with each labored breath. 3 days had passed since they escaped the fall of the crystalline spires. The elven city had stood for 10,000 years until the human coalition forces broke through their magical barriers with new weapons that drained magic itself. The ancient towers of living crystal had shattered one by one as Lydia ran with her newborn child. The elven dominion would not protect them anyway. Lydia was already considered a traitor before the attack. Her crime was twofold: bearing a child of mixed blood and bonding with a dragon. The High Council believed dragons belonged only in the wild, never as companions. Her exile became a death sentence when the human armies arrived. Ember growled softly, sensing something. Behind them, Lydia turned to see faint lights in the distance, the magical runes of Dominion seekers tracking them through the storm. She needed to move faster. The wind howled across the empty plains, cutting through her tattered cloak. The enchantments, woven into the fabric, had kept them alive this long, but the spells weakened with each passing hour. She felt the cold seeping into her bones. The baby stirred against her chest, making small sounds of discomfort. Lydia remembered the stories her mother told her about the ancient days when elves and humans lived as allies before the Great Sundering. She wondered if any place existed where her daughter might be accepted as both and not hunted as neither. The snow deepened as they entered, a valley between two jagged ridges. Night approached quickly in these northern lands, bringing deadly cold. Lydia spotted a small cluster of trees ahead. Perhaps they could find shelter for the night. Ember moved ahead, sniffing the air. His scales brightened slightly as he summoned what little energy remained to scan for danger. The young dragon had been with Lydia since she found him abandoned as a newly hatched orphan 5 years ago. Their bond formed instantly against all elven traditions and laws. The trees offered little protection, but Lydia worked quickly, gathering branches to build a small shelter. She could not risk Ember lighting a fire. The glow would attract the seekers. Instead, she relied on body heat as the three huddled together beneath the crude roof of branches. The baby woke hungry, her cries muffled against Lydia. From her pack, Lydia retrieved the last vial of glowing blue liquid. The nutrient potion would feed her child, but Lydia had nothing left for herself or Ember. Their supplies ran out yesterday. As she fed her daughter, Lydia studied the small face. The child had her pointed ears and silver hair, but her eyes were round and deep brown like her father, the human researcher who had visited the spires, under diplomatic protection. Their forbidden love discovered only after he returned to the coalition. His fate remained unknown. Ember curled around them, his body temperature rising slightly to warm them. The effort cost him dearly. His breathing grew more labored. His connection to Lydia allowed her to feel his pain and exhaustion. The night grew colder. Snow continued falling, covering their tracks, but also burying their shelter. The wind found every gap in their protection, howling like the spirits of the fallen. Through it all, Lydia sang softly to her child, ancient elven songs of hope and resilience, her voice barely audible above the storm. By midnight, the temperature dropped further. Lydia felt her strength fading. Her fingers grew numb. Her magic reserves nearly depleted from days of casting warming spells. She looked at her baby and made a difficult decision. The ancient elven texts spoke of a final gift. A parent could transfer their remaining life force to their child, creating a protective sphere that would last for days. It meant certain death for Lydia, but her daughter might survive long enough for someone to find her. Ember sensed her intentions and growled in protest. His thoughts pushed against her mind. They would find another way. They would survive together. He tried standing but collapsed, his energy too depleted. Lydia stroked his scales gently. The loyal dragon had given everything to protect them. She whispered words of gratitude and love to him, knowing he might not survive either. She then looked at her child, memorizing every feature morning would bring, either rescue or the end. Lydia held little hope for the former. The border between Dominion and Coalition territories lay at least another day away. Neither side would welcome them. The Dominion hunted them as traitors, while the Coalition would see only enemy elves. The storm began to ease around them. Stars appeared through breaks in the clouds, their cold light illuminating the endless white landscape. Lydia calculated they had perhaps hours before the temperature became unsurvivable. She gathered her daughter close, feeling the small heartbeat against her chest. The child slept peacefully, unaware of their dire situation. In that moment, Lydia decided she would use the ancient ritual. Her daughter would live even if she did not. Lydia began the incantation. The words of power felt heavy on her tongue. She had never performed this magic, but knew the theory. All elven mothers learned it, though few ever needed such desperate measures. Silver light gathered around her fingers as she prepared the sacrifice. The baby opened her eyes, seeming to understand. Her tiny hand reached up, touching Lydia's face. The simple gesture almost broke her resolve but strengthened her determination. This child deserved a chance at life. Ember lifted his head one last time. His eyes locked with Lydia. He too would give what remained of his strength. He had grown too weak to continue, but his draconic essence might fuel the spell further. As Lydia prepared to complete the ritual, frost crystallized on her eyelashes. Tears froze on her cheeks. She whispered final words to her daughter. "I am so sorry, little one. May the stars guide your path where I could not." The silver light grew brighter around them. Lydia began transferring her life energy into the protective bubble forming around her child. The process burned through her remaining strength. Her vision darkened at the edges. The cold no longer bothered her as numbness spread through her body. Just as the ritual neared completion, a voice called from beyond the trees. The sound warm and clear, cutting through the howling wind. "I would not do that if I were you. There are better options than dying today." Lydia paused, the silver light flickering around her fingers. She clutched her baby tighter as Ember managed to raise his head toward the voice. A figure approached through the snow, moving with confidence despite the treacherous ground. The ritual light illuminated a human woman with strange markings glowing beneath her skin. She carried no visible weapons, yet moved with the grace of a warrior. Her eyes reflected the moonlight as she stepped closer. The woman extended her hand palm up in a gesture of peace. Her voice came again, firm but kind. "The Coalition outpost is 3 kilometers north. We have been expecting you, Lydia Frost. Your journey does not end here in the snow. Come with me if you want your daughter to live." Lydia stared at the human woman before her. The silver light of the incomplete ritual still flickered around her fingers, casting eerie shadows across the snow. The stranger stood tall against the wind, her dark hair pulled back, revealing strange markings on her neck that glowed with a blue light. Something about those markings seemed familiar yet impossible. The woman stepped closer, revealing more details in the dim light. She wore a Coalition uniform, but modified with symbols Lydia recognized. From ancient elven texts, most shocking were the lines beneath her skin pulsing with energy that appeared to be a fusion of human technology and elven runework. Something that should not exist. Ember growled weakly, his protective instincts fighting. Against his exhaustion, the copper dragon struggled to position himself between Lydia and the newcomer. "My name is Samantha Rivers." The woman said, her breath visible in the cold air. "I mean you no harm to you or your child or your dragon companion." She knelt down to appear less threatening, her eyes never leaving Lydia's. "The Coalition outpost I speak of is not what you think." Lydia clutched her baby tighter. The silver light of the ritual faded as her concentration broke, leaving them in near darkness again. She felt torn between desperate hope and learned suspicion. Why would your people help us? The coalition has been hunting elves for generations. Samantha nodded slowly. Not all of us agree with the war. Many of us believe it is built on lies told by both sides. She gestured to the markings on her skin. These are proof of what happens when elven and human knowledge merge instead of fight. We call ourselves the Convergence. The baby whimpered softly, drawing both women's attention. Ember shifted closer, his nostrils releasing a small puff of smoke in warning. Samantha looked at the night sky. The storm has passed, but the temperature will drop further before dawn. The Dominion Seekers are less than an hour behind you. They're tracking. Runes can sense your daughter's unique energy signature. We need to move now if you want to live, Lydia hesitated. Trusting a human went against everything she had been taught, yet the alternative meant certain death in the snow for all three of them. She looked down at her child, whose mixed heritage made her hunted by both sides. What choice did she have? How do I know this isn't a trap? Lydia asked, her voice hoarse from cold and exhaustion. Samantha pulled back her sleeve, revealing more of the glowing patterns beneath her skin. I was like you once, caught between worlds. My father was a coalition scientist. My mother, an elven healer who crossed the border to study human medicine. They died. Trying to prove both sides are more alike than different, I continue their work. The sincerity in her voice broke through Lydia's doubt. She nodded slowly. Ember, sensing her decision, reluctantly lowered his guard. The dragon was too weak to continue fighting anyway. Good, Samantha said, rising to her feet. We must move quickly. Follow exactly in my footsteps. The path is hidden. Lydia struggled to stand, her legs numb from cold and stillness. Ember pushed himself up, using the last of his strength to support her. The baby remained quiet, as if, sensing the importance of silence, Samantha led them away from their makeshift shelter, toward what appeared to be a solid wall of ice and rock. As they approached, she pressed her palm against the surface. The markings on her skin glowed brighter, and the wall shimmered, revealing a hidden passage. The tunnel inside sloped downward, illuminated by strange crystals embedded in the walls. Neither fully technology nor magic, but something in between. The air grew warmer with each step they took. Ember visibly improved, his scales brightening as they descended. The warmth felt like a miracle after days in the killing cold. Lydia felt tears forming as sensation painfully returned to her extremities. Her daughter stirred, waking fully for the first time in hours, making soft cooing sounds. The passage widened into a small chamber where Samantha stopped. She placed her hand on another wall panel. This time speaking words in an ancient dialect Lydia barely recognized. The wall split open, revealing an elevator platform. This facility was built before the Great Sundering, Samantha explained as they stepped onto the platform. The history you learned about the war between our peoples is incomplete. There was a time when elves and humans worked together. The evidence was buried deliberately by leaders on both sides. The platform descended rapidly. Lydia felt the pressure change in her ears. Her daughter began to cry, the sound echoing in the enclosed space. Ember pressed close, his body warmth a comfort to them both. When the platform stopped, they entered a vast underground complex unlike anything Lydia had seen before. The architecture was neither human nor elven, but something altogether different. Strange symbols covered the walls, similar to texts Lydia had studied in forbidden archives. People moved throughout the facility, some human, some elven, a few other species Lydia had only read about, all working together, most bearing the same impossible fusion of technology and magic that Samantha displayed. Welcome to the Convergence, Samantha said, leading them deeper inside. We represent the truth. Both the Dominion and Coalition have tried to erase for 1,000 years that we are stronger together than apart. Lydia followed in stunned silence, her entire understanding of history challenged by what she witnessed. A human woman approached, carrying medical equipment. This is Dr. Olivia Bennett, our lead researcher. Samantha introduced them. She can help your dragon and check on your daughter. Ember growled softly but allowed the doctor to examine him. Lydia watched carefully, still not fully trusting, despite their apparent rescue. "Your dragon is suffering from magical depletion," Dr. Bennett explained. Her voice was kind, her hands gentle as she attached a small device to Ember's scales. "This will help restore his energy reserves. The compatible frequencies between dragon magic and our technology is fascinating." Lydia held her baby protectively. When Dr. Bennett turned toward them, "May I check her condition?" The journey through the snow must have been difficult for one so young. After a moment of hesitation, Lydia nodded. The doctor used a handheld scanner, passing it over the child. The device projected readings that combined medical data with magical assessments. "Remarkable," Bennett whispered. "Her vitals are strong, despite everything. Her hybrid nature seems to have given her unique resilience." "May I ask about her father?" "He was a researcher from the Coalition studying crystal resonance technologies," Lydia answered, her voice tight with emotion. "We were discovered. I never saw him again after he was recalled to human territory. I learned later he was accused of espionage and imprisoned. I knew him," Bennett said softly. "Gregory Nash. He was one of our earliest supporters. He sent us data about your location before his capture. We attempted rescue but arrived too late." "I'm sorry." Lydia absorbed this information. Her grief, fresh again, but mixed now with new understanding. Her lover had been part of this group that explained his interest in cooperation between species. They moved deeper into the facility, passing laboratories where humans and elves worked side by side. On projects combining technologies Lydia had believed incompatible, Ember followed closely, his strength returning thanks to the device attached to him. Samantha led them to a residential section. The room assigned to them was small but comfortable, with a sleeping area, food preparation space, and bathing facilities. "Rest here," Samantha said. "Food will be brought soon. Tomorrow we will talk more about why you are important to us, all of you." After Samantha left, Lydia sat on the edge of the bed, cradling her daughter Ember curled at her feet. His eyes alert despite his exhaustion. They had survived but entered a world that challenged everything she believed. The baby reached up, touching Lydia's face with tiny fingers. The gesture of trust and dependence strengthened her resolve. Whatever secrets this place held, whatever role these people believed they played, Lydia would protect her child. Hours later, after feeding her daughter and cleaning away the grime of their journey, Lydia explored their new quarters. The technology was advanced yet seamlessly integrated with magical elements. Food appeared in a delivery system built into the wall. Warm water flowed at the touch of a panel. Ember recovered quickly, his copper scales regaining their luster. He prowled the room, investigating every corner. His telepathic bond with Lydia conveyed his mixed feelings: gratitude for rescue, suspicion of their saviors, determination to protect. When Samantha returned, she brought others with her: Dr. Bennett, a security officer named Kimberly West, and an older woman introduced as Eleanor Blackwood, the leader of the Convergence. Lydia stood tall despite her fatigue. "Why have you brought us here? What do you want from us?" Eleanor gestured to the child in Lydia's arms. "We believe your daughter is special, more than simply a hybrid of elf and human. We believe she is the Nexus child foretold in ancient prophecies." Lydia had heard whispered legends of such a child, one born of two worlds, who would end the eternal conflict. But those were bedtime stories, not reality. The prophecy speaks of a child born under the twin moons when the crystal spires fall. Eleanor continued. A child of mixed blood bonded to a fire dragon, a child who would reunite what was sundered. "How could you possibly know?" Lydia began. Samantha interrupted. "We monitored the astronomical signs. We knew when the alignment occurred. We have agents in both the Dominion and Coalition. We learned of your exile and the fall of the spires. The pieces fit. They wanted to place her daughter in a special cradle," Dr. Bennett explained. "It would measure her unique energy signature, confirmed there." 3 months passed in the underground sanctuary. Lydia and her daughter settled into a routine within the hidden world of the convergence. Ember grew stronger, his copper scales now gleaming with renewed health. His size increased noticeably, no longer just the size of a large wolf, but now reaching the shoulder height of an adult elk. Young for a dragon, but growing faster than normal due to proper care and abundant magical energy. Lydia named her daughter Hope, a simple human word that carried meaning in both worlds. The baby thrived, showing remarkable development, her elven heritage evident in her slightly pointed ears and the faint luminescent markings that appeared on her skin when she slept. Her human traits showed in her rounded eyes and quick adaptability. Her unique nature manifested in unexpected ways. Small objects would float near her crib. Lights would change color when she laughed. Plants would bloom out of season when she touched them. The convergence leaders watched, Hope with fascination and reverence. Their belief in her prophetic importance never wavered. Lydia remained cautious, maintaining a protective distance while allowing the researchers to conduct non-invasive studies. She spent her days learning the truth about the 1,000-year conflict between elves and humans. The history she discovered shattered everything she thought she knew. Dr. Bennett led her through the massive archives hidden beneath the facility. Ancient texts, scrolls, and data. Crystals collected over centuries revealed a different past than either the Dominion or Coalition taught their people. These records show that humans and elves once shared a single civilization. Olivia explained, displaying holographic reconstructions of ancient cities. The separation happened during the last conjunction. Lydia studied the images with growing understanding. The architecture matched the strange symbols throughout the facility. Neither purely elven nor human, but a harmonious blending of both styles. The conjunction, she had heard whispers of this term in forbidden texts. But the Dominion priests claimed it was merely a celestial event that marked the birth of elven superiority. It is a cosmic alignment. Olivia continued the barriers between realities thin, allowing energy to flow between dimensions. It occurs once every 10,000 years. The last one created both modern elven and human civilizations, splitting what was once unified. Samantha joined them, bringing star charts that combined elven astronomical knowledge with human mathematical precision. According to our calculations, the next conjunction begins in 30 days, she said, her finger tracing the projected alignment. Lydia recognized the pattern. The Dominion calendar of ascension marks this same date. They believe it signals their rise to godhood through the purification ritual, she recalled. The High Priestess spoke of it often, claiming the stars would grant elven kind the power to cleanse the world, and the Coalition calls it Project Transcendence, Samantha added. Their scientists plan to harness the energy surge for weapons development. Neither side understands they are manipulating forces that could unravel reality itself. In the center of the star chart, a familiar symbol pulsed, the same marking that sometimes appeared on Hope when she slept, the symbol that decorated the walls of the most ancient elven temples, and if Lydia remembered correctly, appeared in human religious iconography, as well, though with slight variations. The Convergence believed Hope was somehow connected to this cosmic event, that her mixed heritage made her a bridge between worlds, that she might be the key to preventing catastrophe during these months. Lydia also learned about her own origins. Her mother had been an elven sage guardian of ancient knowledge, her father a Coalition scientist studying dimensional energy. Their forbidden relationship produced Lydia herself, a hybrid, though her elven traits dominated, allowing her to pass as pure-blooded in the Dominion. Her parents were executed for treason by both governments. Their research destroyed Lydia, raised by distant relatives who hid her true parentage. This knowledge explained many things: her natural affinity for both magical and technological systems, her ability to bond with Ember when most elves could not form such connections, her attraction to Hope father despite generations of ingrained prejudice. Ember too revealed new depths. As he grew stronger, his telepathic bond with both Lydia and Hope strengthened. He began communicating not just with emotions and images, but with clear thoughts and complex ideas. The dragon spent hours in the archives absorbing knowledge at a remarkable rate. Each evening, Lydia would bring Hope to the central garden, an underground space where real sunlight was channeled. through an elaborate system of mirrors and crystals. Ember would join them, forming a protective circle around the small family. Hope would reach for the dragon, her tiny hands patting his scales, causing small sparks of energy to dance between them. Today, as they sat in the garden, Eleanor approached them. The convergence leader moved carefully, respecting the dragon's protective nature. "We have deciphered more of the ancient prophecy," she said, sitting across from Lydia. "The text speaks of the Nexus Child as one who bridges divides, not merely between elven and human, but between our dimension and others." Lydia watched Hope playing with a small ball of light that hovered above her hands. "What does that mean exactly?" Eleanor gestured to the garden around them. This facility was built by the unified civilization before the Sundering. The last time the conjunction occurred, something went wrong. The energies were misused, reality fractured. Our ancestors were divided not just physically but dimensionally. The elves retained stronger connections to magical dimensions, while humans developed stronger ties to the material. Is that why elven magic and human technology developed so differently? Lydia asked. Exactly. Eleanor nodded. But both are simply different expressions of the same underlying principles. The convergence has spent centuries recovering this knowledge, recombining what was sundered. Your daughter represents the natural reunion of these separated forces. Hope giggled as the light she played with split into multiple colors, forming patterns that matched the ancient symbols on the walls. "The prophecy mentions a choice," Eleanor continued. "At the moment of conjunction, the Nexus Child will face a decision, reunification or final separation. Our researchers believe this means Hope will somehow influence how the dimensional energies flow." Lydia felt a chill despite the warmth of the garden. She is just a baby. How could she make such a choice? Perhaps it is not a conscious decision, Eleanor suggested. Perhaps it is simply her existence, her nature, that will guide the energies. Her presence at the right place at the right time. Ember rumbled his thoughts, touching Lydia's mind. He had been studying the ancient texts independently. His understanding sometimes exceeded even the convergence researchers. The dragon believed Hope was not meant to choose but to heal, to restore balance that had been damaged 10,000 years ago. Their discussion was interrupted as Kimberly West, the security chief, entered the garden. Her expression urgent, her movements tense. "We have a problem," she announced. "Our sensors have detected unusual energy patterns. Both Dominion and Coalition forces are mobilizing. They seem to be triangulating on our location." Eleanor stood immediately. "How is that possible?" "Our shielding technology." Kimberly shook her head. "The cosmic alignment has already begun weakening the barriers between dimensions and between our sanctuary and the surface world. Our calculations were off. The conjunction is happening sooner than we predicted." Lydia's first instinct was to gather Hope close. Ember rose to his full height, his wings extending partially in the enclosed space. "What does this mean for us?" she asked. "It means both armies will be here within 24 hours. Kimberly replied. "We need to evacuate." The sanctuary erupted into activity. Researchers packed essential data. Crystal drives containing centuries of recovered knowledge were loaded onto transport vehicles. Medical supplies were distributed. Defensive systems activated. Lydia returned to their quarters, collecting the few possessions they had accumulated. Hope, sensing the tension, began to cry. Ember paced the small room, his tail lashing with agitation. Samantha arrived to help them prepare. "We have a secure location in the mountains," she explained. "A backup facility, not as large but better, hidden." The original builders created several such sanctuaries as they packed. Lydia noticed Ember's strange behavior. The dragon stared at his own reflection in a polished wall panel, his scales shifting color and patterns she had never seen before. When she approached him, his thoughts touched her mind, not with words but with images so ancient and powerful they made her gasp. "What is it?" she asked aloud. Ember turned to her, his eyes glowing with an inner light that reminded her of the star charts. "The time for secrets has passed." The dragon communicated not with thoughts but with actual words in her mind. The crisis approaches faster than even the convergence realizes. Lydia stared at her companion, shocked by this new development. "You can speak. Always could." Ember replied, but was forbidden until the signs appeared. The markings on the walls, the child, the stars aligning. All indicate the time has come. Lydia sank onto the bed, clutching hope. "What are you saying? What secrets? My kind are not native to this world," Ember explained. "We are guardians placed here after the last conjunction, to prevent catastrophe should the knowledge be misused again." The dragon's scales shifted, revealing intricate patterns that matched the sanctuary wall symbols. Exactly. When Hope reached toward him, both began to glow with harmonic energy. The evacuation of the convergence sanctuary continued through the night. Teams moved essential equipment and research data to transport vehicles. Families gathered what few possessions they could carry. Medical supplies were distributed. Emergency protocols activated. The underground facility that had remained hidden for centuries prepared for abandonment. Lydia sat in a quiet corner of the command center, holding Hope close. The baby slept peacefully, unaware of the chaos around her or the crucial role she played in the unfolding events. Ember rested nearby, his copper scales glowing with internal heat. His true nature now revealed, the dragon watched the convergence members with ancient eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall. Samantha approached, carrying equipment for their mission. She placed a small pack beside Lydia. "These devices will help you communicate with me while we are separated," she explained. "They combine elven crystals with human tech, allowing messages to pass undetected across enemy lines." Lydia nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. The plan forming in her mind seemed impossible. Yet the alternative was to allow both the Dominion and Coalition to misuse the power of the conjunction, potentially destroying reality itself. Ember shared his knowledge, the depth of it shocking even the oldest convergence members. The dragon explained how the conjunction was not merely an astronomical event, but a cosmic realignment when dimensions brushed against each other. 10,000 years ago, the unified civilization attempted to harness this energy. Their hubris led to catastrophe. The world fractured, humanity split. The elves drawn toward magical dimensions, humans anchored in material reality, their shared knowledge divided, incomplete on both sides. Ember grew to his full size in the large central chamber of the sanctuary. His wings extended, his presence commanding attention. This form was still young for his kind, but impressive nonetheless. The previous conjunction created the divide. He continued, his voice resonating in the minds of all present. Dragons were sent as guardians to ensure the mistake was not repeated. We watched, we waited, we guided from the shadows. The ciphers were created as stabilizing keys, but over time they were separated, their purpose forgotten, transformed into objects of power and worship. Dr. Bennett studied the ancient texts, comparing them with Ember's revelations. The dragon confirmed what they had suspected. The Dominion half of the cipher was kept in the crystalline cathedral, disguised as the Crown of Ascension, a sacred relic believed to grant elven kind divine power. The Coalition half existed as the core matrix, supposedly the key component of their dimensional weapons program. Both halves must be brought together at the nexus point during the peak of the conjunction. Ember explained, only then can the dimensional rift be healed, preventing catastrophe. Hope stirred in Lydia's arms, tiny hands reaching toward the dragon. Small sparks of energy danced between them. When Hope touched Ember, both glowed with the same pattern as the ancient symbols on the sanctuary walls. Eleanor watched this interaction with growing understanding. "The prophecy speaks of blood sacrifice," she said, "but perhaps we misinterpreted. The conduit might not be consumed, but transformed." Lydia looked up. "What do you mean, the child? Her connection to Ember, her dual nature?" Eleanor continued, "Perhaps the sacrifice is not death but change. The texts say the conduit must be of mixed heritage. We assumed that meant you." But Hope giggled as the energy between her and Ember intensified, forming complex patterns in the air. Ember lowered his massive head-to-eye level with Lydia. The prophecy has been mistranslated over centuries, he explained. The Nexus child is not just the key. She is the conduit. Her mixed heritage makes her the perfect bridge between worlds. The sacrifice required is not of life but of separation. She will unite what was divided. Fear gripped Lydia's heart. What will happen to her? She will become more than she is. Ember replied, not less. Your daughter will survive, but she will be changed. Forever connected to the cosmic balance. Before Lydia could respond, alarms blared throughout the sanctuary. Kimberly rushed in, her expression grim. Both forces have breached the outer defenses, she reported. They approach from east and west. The Dominion from the mountains. The Coalition through the forest. They will reach us within hours. The time for discussion has ended. Eleanor declared. The mission must proceed now. Ember is hope, safe to travel with Lydia. The dragon nodded. She must be present when the ciphers are. United, it is her destiny. Final preparations moved swiftly. Lydia received light armor combining elven enchantments with human ballistic protection. Specialized weapons designed to incapacitate rather than kill communication devices. Stealth technology. Ember would carry both Lydia and Hope. The dragon could move faster than any vehicle, especially through the rugged mountain terrain Samantha prepared separately. Her mission equally dangerous. She would infiltrate the Coalition forces using old security clearances and knowledge of their protocols, her modified body giving her advantages. The farewell was brief. Eleanor embraced Lydia. We will evacuate the remaining personnel and rendezvous at the backup facility, she promised. If we lose communication, remember the Nexus point. The place where the dimensions are thinnest. The place marked on all the ancient maps. Lydia secured Hope in a special harness against her chest. The baby seemed to understand the gravity of the situation, remaining unusually quiet. Ember lowered himself, allowing Lydia to climb onto his back. With final instructions exchanged, the massive hangar doors of the sanctuary opened for the first time in decades. Ember launched himself into the night sky, his wings powerful. Against the cold air, Lydia held tight, feeling the dragon's muscles work beneath her. Hope protected between them. They flew high above the mountains. The world spread below in darkness and light. The Dominion forces visible as a river of glowing runes, moving through the passes, their crystal ships hovering above the troops. The sight of her former people, now enemies, sent a chill through Lydia. Ember banked sharply, turning east, flying directly toward the Dominion army. His thoughts touched her. Mind, we cannot avoid detection for long, but we can choose where and when they find us. Lydia understood the strategy. They would approach from above, where the High Priestess would be, leading the sacred rituals, preparing for the conjunction. The Crown of Ascension would be with her. Far to the west, Lydia could see the lights of the Coalition forces, their mechanical vehicles and energy weapons creating a different but equally impressive display of power. Somewhere in that army, Samantha moved, executing her part of the mission. The rising sun painted the sky in brilliant colors, the conjunction already affecting the atmosphere. Strange auroras danced across the heavens, despite the dawn energy patterns that matched the symbols on the sanctuary walls, the symbols on Hope's skin. When she slept, Ember flew toward a massive crystal formation jutting from the highest mountain, the cathedral where the Dominion performed their most sacred rituals, the place where Lydia had once trained, as a young acolyte before her exile. As they approached, Ember extended his awareness, sensing the defenses. These have changed since ancient times. He noted the elves have added layers of protection, unknown to my kind. We cannot simply force our way. And Lydia studied the formation, remembering her training. There is a lesser entrance, she thought, to the dragon used by servants and suppliers. Away from the main ceremonial halls, Ember adjusted course, circling wide to approach from the north. Keeping the rising sun at their backs, using clouds for cover. When they drew near, he tucked his wings, diving sharply toward a narrow ledge. The landing was precise, silent, his claws finding purchase on the crystal surface. Lydia dismounted quickly, her hand protectively over Hope. The baby remained quiet, sensing the need for silence. Ember shifted his form, shrinking to the size of a large cat, an ability he had not revealed until now. "I can maintain this form briefly," he explained. "The smaller size requiring less energy, creating less magical disturbance, but it limits my power." They moved through narrow corridors, Lydia leading from memory. The interior of the cathedral glowed with ritual light, crystal formations amplifying and channeling magical energy. Upward toward the heavens, preparations for the conjunction were clearly underway. They passed elven guards using shadows and timing, Lydia's knowledge of patrol patterns proving valuable. Despite years away, some things remained unchanged. The rigid discipline, the predictable rotations, the ceremonial timing. Deep within the cathedral, they encountered the first real obstacle. A massive chamber where dozens of acolytes worked, preparing ritual components. Directly beyond lay the inner sanctum, where the high priestess would be, where the crown would be. There was no path around. Ember assessed the situation. "We must wait for the calling bell," he communicated. "The ritual requires all acolytes to gather at the eastern altar. When it sounds," leaving this area briefly empty. Lydia nodded, remembering the sacred timing. The 3 bells that structured all cathedral activities. They found a small alcove to hide, the minutes stretching as they waited. Hope, somehow understanding, remaining silent, her eyes wide, taking in the glowing crystal architecture of her mother's people. The communication device vibrated against Lydia's wrist. Samantha's signal. She had reached the Coalition Command Center. Her mission progressing. When the calling bell finally rang its crystal tone reverberating through the cathedral, the acolytes moved as one, leaving their stations, filing. Dawn broke over twin battlefields, the sky torn open as auroras of impossible colors cascaded across the heavens. Reality itself warped as the conjunction reached its peak. The Dominion crystal ships descended from the east, their formations perfect, their weapons charged with ancient magic. The Coalition mechanized forces approached from the west, ground vehicles and hover platforms, bristling with dimensional technology. Both armies converging on what they believed was the hidden convergence base. Neither side expected what awaited them at the center. Ember soared above the chaos, his massive wings cutting through air now thick with dimensional energy. Lydia clutched the crown of ascension against her chest with one arm, while holding Hope secure with the other. The baby remained unusually calm, her eyes reflecting the swirling colors of the fractured sky. The crown pulsed in harmony with her heartbeat. "We must find Samantha." Lydia thought to the dragon. "The ciphers must be united." Ember projected his awareness outward, searching through the chaos of battle, through the dimensional disturbances, his ancient senses reaching beyond normal perception. There he sensed finally, in the western quadrant of the battlefield, Samantha, trapped between Coalition forces, her energy signature altered but recognizable. She held the core matrix, the second cipher half, its power signature unmistakable. The dragon banked sharply, diving toward the Coalition lines. The crown, in Lydia's possession, began to glow brighter, responding to the proximity of its other half, the connection between the artifacts strengthening as they drew closer. Below them, Coalition soldiers took defensive positions, energy weapons charging, targeting systems locking. On a voice boomed through amplification systems, "Surrender the artifact. All other concerns are secondary." General Lauren Kelly, commander of the Coalition forces, stood atop a mobile command platform, her uniform adorned with medals and technological enhancements. Her eyes fixed on the dragon circling above the core matrix secured in a containment field beside her. Samantha was held nearby, surrounded by guards. Her mission discovered, her cover blown, her cybernetic enhancements partially disabled, blood trickling from wounds that refused to heal due to dampening technology. Ember assessed the situation quickly. The Coalition forces were too numerous, their weapons too powerful for a direct assault. "We need a distraction," he projected to Lydia. As if in answer, the eastern sky filled with light. The Dominion fleet approached crystal ships gleaming in the fractured daylight. Patricia Morgan at their head, the High Priestess had followed them, determined to reclaim the crown. For a brief moment, both armies froze, surprised by the other's presence, their ancient enmity temporarily overshadowed by confusion. The conjunction was supposed to happen at their own sacred sites. Not here in this seemingly random valley. Ember took advantage of the distraction, diving between the forces, his speed incredible, his timing perfect. He landed beside Samantha's position, his tail sweeping guards aside, his wings creating a protective barrier. Lydia leapt from his back, still holding Hope secure. The crown, glowing brightly in her hand, she reached Samantha. The human woman injured but conscious, her eyes lighting with hope when she saw them. "You made it." Samantha gasped through pain. "The core matrix is with Kelly, heavily guarded." "I couldn't." The ground shook as both armies recovered from their surprise opening fire, not just on the dragon and his companions, but on each other. The ancient hatred too strong to ignore, even in this moment of cosmic significance. Energy beams and magical bolts crisscrossed the battlefield, the air itself seeming to tear where they passed. The conjunction amplifying all power, making weapons more deadly, reality less stable. Ember shielded them with his body, his scales deflecting much of the incoming fire. But he could not hold forever, not against two armies. Hope began to glow, her tiny body emitting light that matched the patterns in the sky. The crown responding, growing brighter still. Lydia felt the artifact pulling towards something. The nexus point, the center of the conjunction. The place where dimensions grew thinnest. "We need the second cipher," Lydia shouted over the chaos of battle. Samantha pointed to the command platform where General Kelly stood. "The matrix is there." Security locked to her genetic signature. The Dominion fleet now engaged fully with coalition forces. Crystal ships firing magical bolts of pure energy. Coalition vehicles returning fire with dimensional weaponry. The valley becoming a war zone. Patricia Morgan and Lauren Kelly, both fixated on destroying each other, neither understanding the true significance of the artifacts they sought to control. Ember made a decision. The dragon rose to his full height, his scales shifting color patterns forming across his body that matched the symbols on the crown, the ancient language of guardians, a signal to any who could recognize it. The light show caught the attention of both armies, some soldiers faltering, uncertain. Ember used their hesitation, projecting his thoughts, not just to Lydia but outward, to everyone within range. "See the truth," the dragon commanded, broadcasting images of the world before the sundering. When elves and humans were one people, when technology and magic worked in harmony. The catastrophe that followed. The creation of the ciphers. Their purpose not weapons, not ascension, but healing. Some soldiers lowered their weapons, confused by visions that contradicted everything they had been taught. Others fought on their faith in their leaders, too strong to question. But doubt spread through the ranks like ripples in a pond. Ember launched himself skyward, Hope still secured to Lydia's chest, Samantha clinging to his back. The dragon flew directly toward General Kelly's command platform. Through hails of energy fire, through magical barriers, his determination absolute, the general stood her ground, the core matrix hovering beside her, its technological containment field humming with power. She raised her weapon, prepared to defend what she believed was humanity's salvation. Hope reached toward the matrix, her small hands glowing with energy that matched both ciphers. The baby laughed, a sound of pure joy that somehow carried above the battle. The matrix pulsed in response, its containment field fluctuating. Kelly hesitated, something about the child's laughter touching even her hardened heart. In that moment of hesitation, Lydia acted. She leapt from Ember's back, landing on the platform before Kelly. With Hope still secured to her chest, she held up the crown, its light blinding in intensity, matching the pulsing glow from Hope. "They are not weapons," Lydia said. "They are keys, parts of a whole like our people's." Kelly stood frozen, the words echoing ancient memories buried deep in human, collective consciousness. The matrix flickered in its containment, responding to the crown, responding to hope above them. Patricia Morgan directed her flagship toward the platform. The High Priestess, unwilling to let go of elven destiny, as she understood. At the nexus point, Ember projected its here, the center of this valley where the dimensions align. Lydia understood suddenly why both armies had been drawn here, not to the convergence base, but to this specific place, the true nexus point, the center of the conjunction. The ground beneath them trembled. The sky fractured further. Colors and shapes that should not exist in normal reality, bleeding through. The conjunction, reaching its peak. Kelly made her choice. She deactivated the containment field, the matrix dropping into her hand. She looked at Lydia, at Hope, at the crown, then at the approaching elven ships, at her own forces, fighting a battle based on thousand-year-old lies. "Take it," she said, offering the matrix. "This ends today one way or another." Patricia Morgan screamed orders from her flagship, elven mages launching a final desperate attack. A wave of pure magical energy directed at the platform. Ember intercepted, the dragon placing himself between the attack and the humans, his scales absorbing the worst of it, but the force knocked all of them from the platform, sending them tumbling to the ground below. Lydia held Hope tight, shielding her daughter with her body. They landed hard, Samantha beside them, the crown and matrix, both still in their possession, but the impact separating them. The center. Ember projected his thoughts, weak from the damage he had sustained. The nexus point, it's there. A perfect circle had appeared in the ground at the center of the valley, glowing, with energy that matched the patterns in the sky, the true center of the conjunction. Lydia struggled to her feet, pain shooting through her body. Hope still clutched to her chest, the crown in one hand. The armies still fought around them, though many soldiers now stood watching, uncertain. Sensing the significance of what transpired, Samantha picked up the matrix from where it had fallen, her cybernetics flickering as she forced her damaged body to move. "We have to complete this," she said. Together, they stumbled toward the glowing circle, Ember dragging himself alongside them, the dragon severely wounded but determined. As they reached the circle, both armies seemed to fall away, the noise of battle becoming distant, the world narrowing to just this moment, this place, where reality itself grew thin. Lydia placed the crown on one side of the circle. Samantha set the matrix on the other. The artifacts pulsed in harmony, energy flowing between them, forming a pattern that matched the symbols on Hope's skin. When she slept, according to the prophecy, Lydia said, "The conduit must be of mixed heritage, the living bridge." She prepared to step into the circle herself, ready to sacrifice everything for her daughter, for all their futures. Ember stopped her, his thoughts clear. The prophecy was mistranslated. The sacrifice required is not of life, but of separation. Hope is the bridge.